You are listening to Digging In Podcast, presented by Rooted Wealth Advisors.
Welcome back to another episode on the Digging In Podcast. We have a special guest, Mr. Joe Bags, who hasn't been on the podcast in quite some time, but we were able to catch him for just a few minutes here this morning. Joe, how we doing?
Glad to be here. Happy to be back. Always good to see your face, John.
That's what I wanted to hear. Joe's like, we got to get this rolling so I can get some stuff done. Joe, today we are going to be talking about the retirement paycheck blueprint. If you could summarize, when you first hear that phrase, and if you could summarize what that means, what do you think?
You know what? In my mind, I think about an income plan, right? Long term. But within that plan, right, we're talking about needs, wants, and then legacy, right? So how much income do we need for our needs, right? The necessities. How much income do we want, right, to have? Thinking about discretionary things, whimsical purchases we've been talking about earlier, right?
Yeah.
The idea that we can spend on those whimsical purchases, right, with confidence, right, versus guilt, right?
Okay.
Spending with guilt versus spending with confidence. And then obviously thinking about the income that we don't need or want, leading us to, a legacy play, right? Leaving money behind.
So I think it's interesting. So kind of starting from the beginning of what you said, I mean, the first thing is an income plan, right? And I think, at least from what I've gathered and who I've talked to, an income plan is often extremely overlooked. And the way that I see it is because, well, maybe I've had my employer run some type of Monte Carlo simulation. And for those viewers or listeners that don't know what that is, that's just a simulation that checks this box of, hey, you're going to be okay or you're not going to be okay. And that's kind of the top layer. And what I hear you describing is there's different layers to an income plan, and they all build around certain needs, wants, and legacy. Am I gathering that correctly?
Yeah. So the problem with your first point, John, in my mind, that Monte Carlo simulation and oftentimes that employer plan, that calculator, online calculators, it often spits out a result, an answer, and that answer has nothing to do with income.
Yeah.
It's all about a dollar amount.
Yeah.
Right. As long as you have X amount of dollars in your bucket, that's when it says, it's a green checkbox, right? You're good.
Yeah.
Retirement isn't about how much money you save, John.
Right.
In my opinion, I think it's important, right? We need money, unfortunately, to make the world go round, but retirement's about income.
Yeah.
Specifically, do we have enough of it to maintain our standard of living, do the things we want, make sure that what we want to see happen when the time comes, that happens. So retirement's about income.
It's not about how much money you have. It's about how much money you're ultimately keeping or taking from what you have. And I think when we talk about these three layers to it, I mean, frankly, it's so some of our listeners or viewers might be asking themselves, okay, I get it, but like, how do I approach that? And I think, frankly, you then take what you have saved and you start to kind of silo it, right, into these tranches of, well, this portion of my income is going to go to my needs, right? My, non-discretionary spending so I can live. And then now we can allocate this other tranche to our wants, right? Whether it's travel, grandkids, hobbies, whatever it is, to whether it's maintaining this lifestyle or potentially even elevating our lifestyle in retirement. And then whatever's left over does become surprisingly, this never need income, which is the legacy side of things.
I often refer to it, I even simplify this further, John, and I ask folks, is this money to live on or to leave on?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So we have a bucket of money, if you will, or a bucket of income.
Yeah.
That is our live on. And then we've got the rest, which is our leave on or the life happens stuff.
There we go. The life happens stuff. I think that's a good analogy there. And this can all be done, but I will say, part of our process, our retirement process, like we can really simplify what we're discussing here and really provide the resources and the tools to, make all of those things happen when it comes to an income plan. But I think, frankly, we really get into the details to say, how can we make it better?
I think you're hitting on a point here. We just spent, 5-10 minutes or whatever here talking about the multifaceted income plan,
Yeah.
right? Needs, wants, legacy. But I think there are multiple opportunities to plan outside of that can complement, right, alongside, right? I'm thinking about healthcare planning. I'm thinking about tax planning, right? You brushed on it earlier, John, when you said, retirement's about how much money we keep. It's really what ends up in our pockets or in our clients' pockets that matters, right? Just because we have this dollar amount that we've saved and accumulated, the question to ask then is how much of that is actually mine, right? And I'm referring to our favorite uncle in Washington, right?
Yeah.
We've all got Uncle Sam. So
Yeah, I think it represents, there's a lot of complexities involved with it. And I think having someone alongside of you that can really help simplify and start to maximize those things is really important. So, maybe some questions, as we piggy off of that.
yeah,
So why do you think people obsess over the balances rather than the income? Because I think oftentimes, and I'm guilty of this, right? I'm looking at the bottom dollar. Wow, this is what I have for retirement. I'm not even thinking about what that's going to provide me in terms of income.
yeah. What does that
sometimes.
really mean, right? John, I think this answer is really simple.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, when I say it, I think it's obvious. It's decades and decades and decades and decades of society being told,
Okay.
you have to save. If you have $1 million, you're set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, that's it, right? We've been just groomed to think that as long as we save a certain dollar amount, we're okay. That's
Yeah.
it. And
Interesting.
that often leads to that, as long as I don't withdraw more than 4%, right? The 4% rule. I'm sure we've all heard that before. And that's simply put, as long as you don't withdraw more than 4% of your balance, you'll never run out of money. Unfortunately, that is kind of winging it, right? You're flying by the seat of your pants, and you're opening yourself up to some risks.
So that's kind of where I was going to lead. That was a great point, because one of those risks can be what we call in the industry sequence of return risk. Can you explain
Yeah.
sequence of return risk in simple terms?
I'm going to come back around to it,
Okay.
right? So most folks have heard when buying an investment, buying a stock, when do you buy, John?
When it's down, you want to.
And when do you sell?
When it's high, you hope to.
Buy low, sell high. We've
Correct.
all heard that. So thinking about taking distributions or pulling money out of your portfolio as income in retirement, what do you have to do in your account or accounts to pull cash out?
You have to sell
You got to sell. When do you want to sell again?
when it's high.
Okay. So what happens if John's in retirement, couple of years in, market's been great, and then we see a market correction and everything falls? Does John still have bills to pay?
I do.
Sure. Where does the money come from?
It's a great question. Hopefully I have some socked away somewhere.
And let's say you do, but it's invested and your investments are down.
I have to
What do
take
you
a
do?
loss.
You got to sell.
Right.
So sequence of returns risk is the risk we take that we need to pull money out when the market's down. Okay. That's the risk we take. And now that loss is realized. It's real.
Yep.
So until we pull money out, whether your account's up or down, it's neither really,
Right.
until you actually realize or pull the money out. So sequence of returns risk is avoided by having really a risk assessment done and diversifying a portfolio in a way that we've got this tranche of money, to use your language, right, that is there for us to tap into for the income we're after, right? That income plan, right? These all connect.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
So we want to have this tranche of money that's ready to go to pull income from if the market's down.
Mhm.
We also need a tranche of money that's there to be pulling income from when the market's up.
Mhm.
In a perfect world, we never touch that first tranche.
Right.
But let's face reality. The market's going to go up and it's going to go
Down.
So we need to be in a position to weather either of those, good times and bad, the gas bill's going to keep showing up.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really great example. I think what you had mentioned in terms of, doing this risk assessment, and you're really doing that alongside of your income plan. And those two things are working in synergy as a part of a really good retirement plan. And I think that's the big thing, right? Like this stage of people's lives from a financial aspect, things have to be done almost 180 degrees differently than what they were when you were 20 or 30 years old.
Absolutely.
And it's really hard for people to come around to.
Absolutely. And really that's just to not to beat a dead horse, John, but that's just because we've been groomed and told for decades, save, 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 grow, 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 accumulate, build that dollar amount. And then far too many folks get to the goal, which is that retirement date. And then they wake up the next day, they don't have to go to work, but now what do I do with what I've saved?
Right. Just keep plugging along. It's probably not the best, right?
Right.
It's not going to be the best. And I think in a time like this, right? I mean, if I look back on the last, almost 2 decades, right, since '08, sure, you can find some periods, in the market that weren't that great, but we really haven't seen anything extremely bad. For lack of better terms.
We haven't seen a prolonged period.
There we go, for a length of time.
Correct. We've had COVID.
Yep.
That was a blip.
A blip. We
Well-
ended the year higher than where we were.
It was rocket ship to the moon
Yeah.
half of that year.
Yeah.
2022 is probably the closest thing to a prolonged period.
Correct.
Right. But other than that, life's been good.
Life's
right?
been good.
All-time highs every week. You're hearing about it.
Yep.
Right. In the headlines.
Yep. I would just say, and I'm not a doom and gloomer or pessimist, but I'm just saying if there's a time to really be thinking about what we're discussing here and you're nearing retirement and pulling, money from your funds, like these are critical things to have addressed. And so let's just kind of circle it back around. If someone doesn't have an income plan that isn't addressing their needs, their wants, and their legacy, if they haven't heard of sequence of return risk and it's not being addressed, what should they do?
They should give Rooted Wealth Advisors a phone call.
That's what I like
and
to
have
hear.
a conversation with a fiduciary advisor such as yourself, John,
Yeah.
me, Connor, Alex, any of the advisors on the team, and have a conversation.
Just have a conversation. I think even if you are working with someone today, ask them, hey, why haven't we had these discussions? Because this is a very sophisticated piece to retirement planning. It's not just about how my money's being managed. And, you need to be having those conversations. And, I think we address them really well here.
I would agree with that, and I think now is a great reminder of an old analogy, John. You'll appreciate this,
Okay.
right? When's the best time to buy an umbrella, John?
Well, the best time is when it's sunny and nice outside.
Before it rains,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So what I'm referring to really, John, is times are good, market's high, money's growing, and what do people become? Complacent, right? We didn't plan that, by the way. So now is the time, right? It's not when it's raining that I need the umbrella. I need it beforehand.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe, appreciate you being on here and taking the time with us. And honestly, I think there was some really good nuggets in that episode there for a lot of our viewers and hopefully a lot of good takeaways. So appreciate you. If you haven't had those things addressed, we would love, like Joe said, we'd love to have a conversation and ultimately just see where we can lean in and bring value. Give us a call, 866-766-8332. And as always, we'll dig in soon.
This was Digging In Podcast, presented by Rooted Wealth Advisors.
Thank you, Joe.
That was fun.
I was like, we're digging in, we'll dig in soon. It's been a while since I've done it. I don't even remember what the 800 number is.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That was a great one.